May I know, after an IPO, a company normally sells how many percent of the shares to the public? Yeah. So during an IPO, there's two classes of shares that usually occur. There's primary shares and secondary shares. Primary shares are brand new shares that are created. Okay, brand new shares. And the public buys those shares and the company uses that money to grow. Then there's something called secondary shares. And secondary shares are shares that are owned by employees or investors, like venture capital firms. And so in an IPO, a lot of secondary shares are there. Okay. Now, the issue with secondary shares is after an IPO, there's a 6-month lockup, meaning if you're a venture capitalist or an insider or manager of the company or an employee and you have shares and you want to sell them in the IPO, you have to wait for 6 months after the IPO. And that's why, and I used to play this game when I worked in the hedge fund market, that's why stocks tend to go down 6 months after an IPO. It doesn't matter what the fundamentals are for the company. If people are selling, they're going to sell. And I always did that as well. And so I received shares in a company called Nimble Storage, ticker NMBL. When I worked in venture capital, we had a nice exit. They went public. Varun Mehta, the CEO, is a brilliant guy, and so is Suresh Gasudian. So I sold my shares 6 months after. I think it was like $30 or something. The company got acquired eventually for a lower price. But I sold my shares because that was 99% of my net worth at that point in time. I didn't care what the fundamentals were like. I needed liquidity now. Kind of like, George Costanza used to say, serenity now. I had to get liquidity. And so it doesn't matter what the fundamentals are like. And so what I used to do in the hedge fund industry is I used to short stocks that were liquid, that trade a lot, right before the 6-month lockup was done, because I knew there's going to be a big increase in supply of shares. And then I'd cover and go long after that was done. Now there's game theory involved because a lot of people are thinking of doing that now. That trade's getting a bit crowded. So like Kasparov in chess, for example, you got to think a couple moves ahead. Yeah.